Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of What's So Funny. Tonight we have a very special guest. Well, they're all special, really. But tonight, somebody we haven't had on before. A guy I was a bit intimidated to talk to until I spoke to him on the phone for a newspaper story the week before. He's a very nice guy, very, very giving, a good talker, everything you want in a guest. Who is it? It's the Pitbull of Comedy himself, Mr. Bobby Slayton. That's right. Anyone with the name Pitbull. You know, I'm deathly afraid of pit bulls, but this guy could be the pussycat of comedy. Till you hear him on stage where he's filthy and attacks everybody. Bobby Slayton's a great guest. I got to say that he was in Dreamgirls. Maybe you saw him in the Rat Pack movie or Get Shorty. He was named one of the top 100 comics of all time. He gave me that introduction. Frankly, when I sat down to speak with him, I didn't have anything. But yeah, he provided the credits for me, so I didn't have to research anything. Bobby Slayton said that he had never played Vancouver before. He'd been here a couple times. Once for a movie, once for a TV show. I wrote that in the newspaper because I'm a trusting sort, and there was no evidence to the contrary. Well, I got evidence to the contrary by way of Twitter. Somebody tweeted me and said, no, I saw him here. I can't remember when, but I saw him here on a nasty show. And I said, that can't be right. And it turns out it was right. Bobby Slayton didn't even remember it, so we didn't talk about it here. But Bobby Slayton performed in Vancouver, and the very first Cross Canada Just for Laughs tour, they did a series of shows in 8 towns in 1999. So every day there'd be a different themed show. He was on the Nasty Show, along with Mike Wilmot, former guest on this program, and Otto and George, the ventriloquist, the late Otto and George. Well, maybe one of them is still around. Yeah, I don't want to bring us down here. We're here to talk about Bobby Slayton and here to talk with Bobby Slayton. Enjoy this very spirited and fun interview I had with him. We recorded it in the morning at the Comedy Mix a couple weeks ago when he headlined there. It's fantastic, by the way. If he ever comes back, you got to go. He only walked a few people, but, you know, that's to be expected when you're the Pitbull of Comedy. Here I am with Bobby Slayton. Enjoy. Welcome to town. Welcome back to town, Bobby Slayton.
That's my whole big introduction. It's not even
No.
Bobby Slayton at the Comedy Mix. Bobby Slayton, you've seen him in Dreamgirls, Rat Pack, Get Shorty, Bobby Slayton, his Showtime.
I haven't seen any of those.
Okay, well, you can pretend like you have.
Well, no,
I haven't either.
Here's the thing, Bobby. I do the introduction separately.
Oh.
And then we go, and now here's my
so
conversation.
I've already screwed it up.
You've ruined it. I thought you were a big listener to this show.
I do. I listen. No, I said I was a big listener. Not to this. I listen to a lot of. By the way, it's funny because on my iPhone and my iPad, I got all the podcasts, and I just never listened to them. It's like I love Bill Burr, and people say you got to listen to this podcast. Of course, your podcast.
Yeah.
There's so many of them now.
Too many.
But not only too many, but once I got Netflix about 3 or 4 years ago, I realized, and HBO to go and Showtime. I spend a lot of time in hotels. So if I'm not out walking around, like every town's not Vancouver. I can't wait to get out today and walk around this town. But sometimes I'll go play a comedy club. Like you play Atlanta, the Punchline. Or when I talked to you last week, I said the Improv in Pittsburgh. But the thing is, you're not in Pittsburgh. You're not in Atlanta. You're in the suburbs of Atlanta. So where you are is in, like, for example, last week I'm in Pittsburgh, which it sounds like a Punchline, which it used to be. But downtown Pittsburgh has some of the most beautiful architecture in North America. It's beautiful.
Never been.
And, the Andy Warhol Museum, great restaurants, Little Italy. But they put me in you're out in the burbs, and, the great club, but it's in a mall. So you can be in any place in America.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or I'd say North America, but here's a little bit different because there's Tim Hortons and poutine. But besides that, it's the same. Every mall, you got your Staples, you got your Burger King, you got your designer shops.
It's comforting, isn't it?
You know what? It's comforting in a way. But at the same time, when I come to a town like Vancouver, I don't want to eat at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. I don't want to go to a chain, when I want to go to the local fish house. I want to go to the local steakhouse. I love going out to eat. I mean, that's one of the few things in life. I don't give a rat's ass about hockey. I don't cheat on my wife. I hate strip clubs, and I don't play golf. I don't gamble. So what I have in my life now is wine and food, and that's it.
That's it.
And Netflix.
And Netflix.
And Pornhub, free porn. Okay. That should give me a T-shirt. That's a free plug for Pornhub. But can I get one word in? So what I'm saying is...
Can you get one word in? I think so.
What I'm saying is that all the podcasts I don't listen to because there's so much stuff to catch up on. You know, it took me a couple of years to catch up with Breaking Bad. It took me a while before I got to watch, Homeland. And when people say there's nothing on TV, they're really, I'm not talking about network TV, but there's brilliant stuff now on Showtime, HBO. You got Louis C.K., got the Independent Film Channel. There's so many things to watch and listen to.
Too many.
Too many.
Just like as we talked about, too many comics, too many podcasts.
Right.
Too much.
Well,
remember when you used to go and get ice cream? There were 3 flavors.
Right.
Easy to pick.
Right.
And now you walk in, there's 100 flavors. It takes you half an hour to figure out what you want.
Well, everything's become so designer because it's funny. Once Baskin-Robbins had 30-something flavors, wow, that's a lot of flavors. And it was. But, there were still permutations on, okay, we'll add marshmallows and nuts and we'll make up a new name, Rocky Road. And then Ben & Jerry's came along. But now you got these places, these yuppie designer places where they're infusing, palm tree leaves and you're going, it's way beyond coconut. And I go back to I like my vanilla. But even yogurt, you have all these pomegranate. You have it's just too much.
A vanilla comic. That's what you are not.
No, I'm not vanilla.
But you like vanilla, yeah.
I'm not vanilla.
So when you walk around a town, specifically Vancouver, do you take note of things to bring to your act?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What have you noticed so far?
Well, I haven't done anything yet. I got in last night and I walked down the street to find a restaurant, and there were lots of them. And
too many restaurants.
Too many restaurants. But you know what? It's nice to have the choices.
Yeah.
It really is mind-boggling how I remember like 10, 15 years ago, it was hard to find a wine bar. And now, they're everywhere. So, but it's great. It's great that people go out. Like I said, it's one of the few things I love. And as soon as we're done today, before my show at the Comedy Mix, I'm going to probably take a walk all the way out to 4th Avenue with people telling, it's going to take you 45 minutes. Well, so what? I have nothing else to do. There's a lot of people that don't walk, and it could be the fact that I'm from New York, but I go to a town, and I'll say, is there a good, how far is Chinatown? Oh, yeah, you can't walk it. Well, how far is it? Oh, it's at least a mile. Really? And you're there in 5-10 minutes because people now, there's a lot of people that are just so fat and so lazy, and they just don't do anything.
You are in shape. You walk over the bridge up to 4th.
Right.
It's a beautiful walk.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You asked me if I come up with material. I don't go out looking for material, but when I go to a city, very often there are things. I don't have any hockey jokes per se, but,
Good.
But there's things you notice about Vancouver, or I hope to notice about Vancouver, that, and it's just little things to make it, not necessarily to do it for the people, but I just like to mention something about the town, whether it's Chinatown or, but then there's places you go to, like I was in Omaha last week, and there was, except for corn, fields, there wasn't a lot I can, by the way, a great town, believe it or not, Omaha, Nebraska. I went to a couple of great wine bars and a great sushi bar. Of all places, Omaha, Nebraska.
We are recording this prior to your first show at the Comedy Mix.
Yes.
You've never performed in Vancouver before.
No, and by the way, before we go on, if I can get one word in, because you don't stop, I want to thank you for the great article in the newspaper, what's it called, The Straight?
Yes.
You have a lot of free newspapers here. That's one, of course, is the best. But,
I'm
walking down
the
street.
biggest, yeah.
Because when I go to the gym, I like to pick up the local rags. But there's like dozens of them. They're only 5 pages.
Too many
each.
newspapers.
The Straight, though, it seems to be the big state of the art.
That's the one.
And you were one of the few guys, and I hate to give anybody a compliment ever, but you managed to, so many people misquote you. And, they'll either quote a joke or something you say, and it just doesn't come out right. And you go, well, this guy doesn't sound funny. Because, it doesn't always translate to the printed word. But you did it. You did it, guy.
Wow, well, I just listened to what you said and wrote it down.
Most people don't do that, though.
But what do they do?
They
paraphrase?
Well, you can change a word or two.
Yeah.
And it can break the whole cadence, the whole punchline. It can ruin everything. And I've had so many people do that, where they'll take a joke and it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's taken out of context. They put it on the printed page, and it just doesn't work.
Well, now, of course, it was an interview with you. When I have to review a show, lately, the challenge is to review without quoting any of the material and just talk about it.
That's really difficult to do.
It is difficult to do, and so I might slip in one.
Right.
But the last couple of years, I've tried not to quote because I don't want to spoil it for anyone else.
But, sometimes you have to do that. Like, if I do morning radio, they could do your act, and I try to stay away from it. But if you do a little bit of it, it's okay. But then, I remember, what was it? It was years ago. I did, I think, Arsenio Hall show, or it was one of the late night shows. And, I did my 5 minutes, whatever you're supposed to do. And that night I'm playing the club, and somebody says, "Oh, I heard you do that yesterday on the Tonight Show. I heard." I go, "Wait a second. I did 5 minutes. I just did an hour. You heard 55 different minutes, and you're still complaining." But then again, there's some people that want you to do the same jokes. Hey, how come you don't do that Chinese waiter anymore? What about your wife and the car? And I don't think comedy. I mean, I watch comics and I like to hear some of the same bits. But I would imagine you go to a comedy show, you want to hear a lot of new stuff. It's not like when you go see the Stones and you want to hear Jumpin' Jack Flash. You want to hear the Golden Nuggets and the classics.
Yeah.
I think that bands get to rest on their laurels a little bit more because that's what you want. You don't want the new songs. You want the good stuff you grew up with. With comedy, you got to keep moving along.
Keep moving.
You keep moving.
Interesting. I read a review of a Rosie O'Donnell apparently has a new album, or she's back to stand-up.
How did I miss that? Really? Damn.
and the reviewer was saying how she grew up in the 80s, as you did, as a comic, and her cadence is still kind of 80s. Now, I haven't heard her album, so I'm just going by the reviewer. So I'm thinking, how much have you had to go with the times as your career has moved on?
I don't know what that means, her cadence.
Well, it was more set up
style?
punch, I guess.
Huh?
In the 80s was more set up punch and maybe not as personal. I don't know.
I don't know either because I don't know exactly what they meant because my style is still, they still kind of beat him over the head. My style from the 80s has changed a lot. Only because I've changed. I used to really be nonstop like I'm doing on your podcast, but that's only because I want to get this over with and go outside. Nothing personal. But no, I used to bang them over the head with jokes. Now I like to ramble a little bit more. You can't keep it at that level. So I like, if I'll yell to really drive home a point, but I won't keep it at that level.
Mm-hmm.
It's different kind of. I'll talk to people and I'll ask questions. I'll do a joke, and it's hard to deconstruct my own act. I mean, I'll watch it, and it's painful to watch. I don't think any comic really likes watching themselves work, but I've changed a lot since the 80s.
Yeah, well, have you noticed that comedy in general has changed?
Well, it's an interesting question because I think like the flavors of ice cream, everything evolves and changes, but you always go back to vanilla. That was beautiful. I'm not even sure what that meant, guy. But I think that people call me old school. A lot of comedians, I love Slayton. He's old school. And to me, old school was the style of Buddy Hackett and Joey Bishop and those guys. And I guess if you watch my act, it's kind of like that in a way. Wife jokes and punchlines. But it's also, I think, more observations about what's going on today. There's so many different comics now. You see a lot of old school. Wendy Liebman has a certain style where she'll do a joke and a punchline. Mm-hmm. And the late, great Mitch Hedberg would work like that. And Stephen Wright would work like that. And I see guys still working like that. Then I see guys like Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K. They just go on and on and on. And, they'll get to the joke when they feel like it, which is great. Mm-hmm. And then there's Sarah Silverman, who's in a class by herself. But, I think it's Amy Schumer does jokes. I think Lisa Lampanelli does jokes. I do jokes.
Yeah.
It's
the way of arriving at the joke, I guess.
Yeah.
is what has changed.
Well, I don't plan out my style. I think a lot of comics have a style, and they do it. And I think a lot of guys like myself just develop this natural. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of comics like me working today, which is not a good thing or a bad thing. I see guys. I'll see young comics open up for me a lot of times. By the end of the week, they're trying to do me, but I think. You just got to develop your own style. Jerry Seinfeld's a joke teller. Jay Leno's a joke teller, So that's still that 80s thing, and those guys are terrific.
Who said this? He's been compared to Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce.
How old is that?
He's one of San Francisco's most controversial comics.
That must be old.
Yeah.
Where
last
did you find
night,
that?
I'll tell you what I was doing last night. I watched you on Evening at the Improv.
Oh, my God.
Well, what year was that? It was in the first season.
Well, I did about a half a dozen of those.
So I think it was your first appearance, and Harvey Korman was the guy who just
I
said that.
I'd like to see that because I
the
remember
host.
Back then. Yes, that was the 80s or 70s. That was the early 80s, and it was joke. My voice has changed.
Your voice has changed, yeah.
Who
was that guy that we saw, or that I saw on that?
I was a young comic trying to find his way, make his way in the world of comedy.
Do you remember your first time on that show? Were
no.
you thinking, wow?
No, but I remember my first TV appearance, major TV appearance, horrible. And there was a show called Norm Crosby's Comedy Shop.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a precursor to that evening at the Improv. Over the years, there's been Comic Strip Live. There's now Gotham on one of the cable stations, Gotham Live, Improv. There's a million shows that showcases comics. But back then, before Showtime and HBO, I think Leno did the first Showtime special, and I think Carlin and Klein did the first couple of HBO ones. But before that was the show Norm Crosby's Comedy Shop. Norm Crosby, old school comic, still alive, and he would have comics on.
The malapropisms.
Yeah, of course, right. Malaprop, just like Leo Garci. And I went on about 23 or 24, and I had this high prepubescent Jay Leno voice, and I had my little Jew fro and my shiny forehead, and I think the suit I got bar mitzvahed in, and the jokes were pretty lame.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was just starting out, and if you look at any comic when he started out, the jokes are pretty lame. I think now comics have more of a template to be able to see how to do stand-up. Back then, the guys right before me were Leno and Carlin and Pryor and Cosby. And before that was the Borscht Belt comics. But as far as the club comedy scene, everybody was just trying to forge their way in the comedy world. So the difference was it was a young kid not knowing what to do. But the San Francisco thing, when I started out, they started comparing me to Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce, and I was nothing like Mort Saul or Lenny Bruce. But what was happening was I was doing jokes about gay people and jokes about, I don't know if it was insult humor, but people like to pigeonhole you and compare you. It's like anything. You're a reviewer. The whole thing with the new TV show. It's like Gilligan's Island meets Bewitched. I'm going to go way back. If there was a witch
Lost,
on an island,
of course. Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, people. But people always like to try to explain what a show is about. So it's kind of like. I don't know.
They want to give a reference to the audience about what they can expect when they see you.
Well, not that guy from. It's certainly not the guy from Evening at the Improv. It's certainly not the guy from Norm Crosby's Comedy Shop.
Excuse me, I just want to interrupt for a second just to say that you're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO 100.5 FM in Vancouver, Canada. It's Vancouver's cooperative radio station. See how we're being cooperative here? My guest is Bobby Slayton, and I'm Guy McPherson. Now keep listening. It's interesting that you're a much better comic today than you were then.
But everybody is.
That's what I'm saying. But when what we were talking about before on the phone, Comedy Central won't put on anybody over the age of 40 or 45. Right. And yet, just objectively, those people are better than the young people.
Well, yeah,
and those young people will get better too. Absolutely. As they get older.
But what Comedy Central does is they want the demographics, the young, whatever it is, the younger people who, Jay Leno did that too. He wouldn't put on a lot of comedians because he said people would turn the show off. And, a lot of radio shows at 18 to 49, they're looking for women and they're looking, they got to sell products. So I understand where Comedy Central is going. But at the same time, they'll put on a lot of crappy comics. They give out those specials like Halloween candy to anybody that wants one. They pay you crappy money. But a lot of us older guys, we're the ones that kind of started out Comedy Central. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. I mean, Jon Stewart would not be on Comedy Central now, neither would Louis Black if they were just starting out now. The fact they've been grandfathered in, no pun intended. But, I remember years ago, there was a Comedy Central top 100 list of top comics of all time. And I was on the list. And I was
what number?
80. Huh?
What number?
80-something. I don't know. Yeah. But I remember Rosie ODonnell was number 25. The whole list was stupid. And at the time, I mean, there was no Sarah Silverman, there was no Bill Burr, there was no, half the great comics working today. I probably wouldn't have been on the list, but they had left out so many great comics at the time. Jake Johansson, I remember, and Brian Regan, and a lot of comics. And it was judged by comedy club owners and agents and managers who really couldn't think back past 1975. And a lot of them didn't have a clue. That's why a lot of these shows are so stupid. The Academy Awards, people were upset that, the woman who directed Selma, or what was the film? Was it Selma?
Selma was a film. I don't know which one.
Yeah, anyway, but because there's a lot of old white men that vote, right, and a lot of black people. Yeah. So, basically, the whole judging system is moronic. So when I got on the top 100 comics, everybody said to me, wow, you must be so happy. And I go, I don't give a rat's ass. At the time, I definitely was in the top 100 comics. I like to still think I am. I think I was I only think there's 40 or 50 great comics working today.
You don't give a rat's ass, but had you been left off, you might have cared.
I probably would have. Well, when I won the award, it was a Lucite award.
What award?
Huh?
What award?
Oh, no, that was something. No, I'm sorry, that was something else. I'm mixing up two different things. I'm mixing up when I won an award, Best Club Comic. ABC used to have a thing where they ABC Comedy Awards. George Schlatter, who did Laugh-In.
Yeah.
It went on for about 5 years. They'd have some big people giving awards and accepting awards. Steve Martin, Carl Reiner, a lot of important people in the comedy world. So they had an award for Best Club Comic, and I think Seinfeld won the first year. And there was Best Male Comic, Best Female Comic. And I won the second year. It was me and I think Paula Poundstone or Elaine Boozler. I don't remember. But I said, okay, it's an award. And I put it on my desk. And it was, the next year, Carrot Top beat Bill Hicks. And I said, well, this is just stupid. And the award right now holds open my garage door when I'm down there working out. Keeps the wind from shutting it. And I had some comedian come over and go, you want an American Comedy Award? It's holding your garage door open because it's a meaningless award. It's stupid.
Right, but it is still better to get it than not.
To not get it, I guess. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I was just reading about a guy who did a lot of interviews, and he did 3 with Nobel Prize winners, and they all were going, who cares?
Right. You
but
know what?
At least they have
It
that.
even trickles down to your radio show. Nobody listens to the Guy McPherson podcast. He asked me to do it. I was happy to do it because I'm not doing anything, and you wrote a great article about me. And being asked to do it doesn't matter. But if I tried to get on and you said no, it would have hurt a lot. So maybe better to do the podcast than not. On the same level as the Nobel Prize and the American Comedy Award.
Yeah, so you're comparing me to the Nobel Prize and the American
I'm
Comedy
comparing
Award.
them to you.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, good. Hey, you know who was on that evening at the Improv I watched along with you?
Yeah, I don't remember.
So Harvey Korman hosted. Hervé Villachez was in the audience.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Did you meet him?
I don't remember if I met him. It's funny because I said
You'd
this to you.
remember if you met
I said
Hervé
this,
Villachez.
What's that?
You'd remember if you met Hervé Villachez.
Well, it's funny. Living in L.A., when, you go to any nice restaurant, there's always somebody. If it's not a famous star, it's always a great character actor.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was in some Italian restaurant in my neighborhood last week with my wife, and sitting there was, I didn't pronounce his name, Stephen Tobolowsky, Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. It's Ned. He's trying to sell me shirts. Ned Ryerson. So, of course, I walk out, Ned Ryerson. But you see these guys at the car wash all the time, and you see character actors, and, and in my neighborhood, I'm always seeing Paul Abdul or Gene Simmons. And, I see Paul Stanley from Kiss a lot at the grocery store.
How would you know?
Huh?
How would you know?
Well, I know him without makeup, but he wears some makeup all the time to the grocery store.
That's right. That's how you
every time I see him, and it is every couple of months, I go, how do you rock and roll every night and grocery shop every day? And he always laughs. But no, what I'm saying is that you see so many celebrities that have become, you see them at the car wash. But one of the greatest things ever, because I'll go once in a while to Beverly Hills and have lunch or dinner. And there's Larry King or Tom Hanks. It's fine. You're used to seeing them. But one of the greatest things ever, when I first moved to L.A., I'm in traffic. L.A., it's all you're in. And I'm in a traffic light. And there's Otis, the town drunk from Andy and Mayberry, the Andy Griffith Show. And I go, Otis, it's Otis. And he goes, how do you
Still
recognize me? I
alive?
go, because I grew up, this is years ago.
Oh, okay.
No, Otis died a long time ago. But it was in my 20s. And I was more excited about seeing him than seeing Steve Martin at the luncheonette. But,
People that we saw when we were kids, no matter how insignificant they are.
Oh, yeah.
They are like the hugest stars.
Oh, when you're a kid.
More so than Tom Hanks.
Oh, no, do you see the weatherman from the news station?
Yeah.
Now you realize that he's a loser because he can't become an anchor. He's just a weather guy. No, but you see anybody that was on, oh my God, I go to Yankee games. And if I happen to see one of the guys on the train coming home from New York, I'd see Joe Garagiola, who was, used to be,
He said, she said.
Huh?
He hosted He Said, She Said.
What's that?
A game show.
Oh, Joe Garagiola?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did. I don't think, is he still alive?
No.
No.
No, this was in the 70s or 80s.
Okay.
And now here's the star of He Said, She Said, Joe Garagiola.
But anyway, it was always a thrill to see these people. That's why I told you the first time I came to Vancouver and we're shooting a TV show, because you do so many TV shows and movies. I see Dick Van Dyke in the elevator, then Jimmy Page at the bar. Two different eras and aspects of show business, But I felt like, wow, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
And Hervé Villachez, that was, I don't remember if that really was that cool or not. I don't remember.
And the comics on the show, leading off, Tim Thomerson.
He's still around, great character actor.
I had to look him up because I don't remember seeing him. I used to watch Evening at the Improv all the time. I looked him up, and now he's this heavyweight actor. He's been in
major character actor.
He was in Leaving Las Vegas, which you lived.
A lot of movies. A lot of. He's one of the guys I opened up for when I was starting out. Was Tim Thomerson. He was like the generation right before me of comics.
Yeah.
Guys who started out 5 years before me, him, Leno, Letterman, Elaine Boozler, Michael Batman Keaton, or Birdman now. I opened up for all those guys. George Wallace, Seinfeld.
Yeah.
You know.
They were just before you.
So who else was
So, Rich Hall, who's
Okay.
still going. He's living in England.
He's a Canadian guy, isn't he? Really?
No, he's American. He's from,
yeah.
I think he lives in Wyoming
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
Yeah, I see Rich once in a while at the Montreal Comedy Festival. He was great.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I think I saw you and him there in about 2003.
Yeah, I
Were
do it
you there in 2003?
I was there almost every year. I'm not doing it this year. I host this big nasty show,
Yeah.
which they're using somebody else. He's using a Canadian this year. It's fine.
Is
I
it?
get 2 weeks
Is
up. Every year I do that nasty show, and we used to do like 15 shows in 10 days and pack the Club Soda in Montreal, which is a beautiful little theater. And, by the 10th, 11th show, especially when you're hosting the show, you got to go back there every 10 minutes and bring on the next guy, open the show, close the show. It was a lot of work. And when you're drinking and you're doing 3 shows a night, by the third show, you don't remember what the hell you said.
Will you go back in the future,
Oh, of
or
course.
that's up to them?
Way in the future.
Way in
Way in the future. Yeah. In the year 2045, if Metter's still
Indeed.
alive. Remember Zager and Evans. In the year 25.
And
That was
the other comic on the bill, Evening at the Improv, was Kevin Nealon.
Oh, Kevin. I love Kevin.
Love Kevin Nealon, and it's interesting. His style really hasn't changed from then, and
No.
that's not a knock at all.
No. Kevin is still doing stand-up and still
Still doing it his way,
the same easygoing, conversational.
silly.
Silly.
Yeah.
Very. It's funny. Kevin and I and Dana Carvey used to hang out at the Improv in Hollywood. Me and Dana moved down from San Francisco, and I forgot where Nealon was from, but we'd all go on auditions, and we'd do these late night spots for $25, and we'd hang out, just waiting for something to happen. And then, Dana and Nealon, of course, got SNL, and I'm still hanging out in the basement of the hotel at the Comedy Mix talking to you. Things have not changed for me, which is fine. I'm perfectly happy doing this. It's great.
Thank you.
No, I am. I'm great. I love doing this. I've been one of the guys that loves doing stand-up. I mean, after 40 years, I got to say, I travel so much that I get really tired of it. I have 8 million frequent flyer miles, and it does get old. But when I come to a town like Vancouver, which I haven't done stand-up in, and I haven't been to in 20 years, and I just love this town.
And
So
it's sunny.
it's great.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's great.
So we're sitting here, we should say, in the Comedy Mix
Yes.
in the morning. What do you think of the room? Is that something you take note of when you walk into a new club? Just the
Yeah.
layout?
Yeah, but you know what? This is a really nice club. But you know what? I play some beautiful clubs that have horrible audiences and funky little clubs that have great audiences. And, people ask me what my favorite city to go, where I love to go more than any place. I love to go to New York. I play at the Gotham Comedy Club. It's great. But then again, I'll go to Columbus, Ohio, play There's a Funny Bone. And I don't know why that club for 30 years has been so great. Again, you're at a hotel in a mall, but it's a nice mall. It's an outdoor mall. It's got great restaurants. The club's right there. That's a big thing for me. So, I mean, it's the whole package. It's a good club. It's good restaurants,
I spoke to Al Madrigal yesterday.
Who will be here next week, yes.
Who'll be here next week. And one of the reasons he wanted to come here is because of the restaurant. So is that all you comics do? Just pick the cities that have good food?
No, most comics don't really care.
No.
I don't think most comics
But when you
are.
get to a certain level and you've been to all the other places.
You know what? Al, I love Al. He opened up for me many years ago, as did Roseanne, as did Judd Apatow, David Spade,
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart, Bill Hicks. Oh, my God.
Bill Hicks opened up for you.
Bill Hicks opened up for me. Roseanne Barr, who I saw in the airport coming here, she was on her way to the Tribeca Film Festival. It's funny. I ran into Howie Mandel, who I think him and I started the same week in L.A. He had been doing comedy up in Canada.
Yeah.
And I was in San Francisco. We both came down. We're both 22, 23 years old, maybe even younger. And Howie and I were the first two guys online at the Comedy Store on a Monday night, audition night, whatever. And Howie had been in the carpet business, and my father, we became friends. And I saw him at the airport coming here to Vancouver, and he was on his way to New York to do, I think, some prep work for America's Got Talent. And Roseanne was on her way to the Tribeca Film Festival. She's got a movie. And they go, where are you going? I go, I'm going to Vancouver to the Comedy Mix. And I was so happy about coming here. And then I realized, well, those guys are really in show business. I called my wife. She goes, wait a second. An hour ago, you were thrilled about going to Vancouver. You were thrilled about having a new credit card with or you could go eat. And I go, you know what? You're right. You know, I've 3 friends in the last year that have died of cancer and 2 more that got it. I go, everything is fine.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
Because you were talking about Howie doing the big network TV show
Right.
in New York and Roseanne
Right.
doing whatever. Yeah, that's right. You can't judge your happiness on other people.
I'll never be happy. People say to my wife, what makes Bobby mad? She goes, air. But, you know, I think that's what keeps me going. You know, I think there's a lot of type A personalities, if you don't notice that by this interview.
Yeah.
I got high blood pressure. You wouldn't notice that, guy. I keep it very well
plus.
concealed when I do radio because I'm a professional entertainer. I think for me, the high blood pressure and the metabolism of a hummingbird, which my wife once said about me, I think that's what keeps me going, you know. At the same time, I eat really well. I'm going to go to the gym after this, and I masturbate a lot. So I really
Don't want to hear that.
some things need to be said.
Don't want to hear that. You're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO 100.5 FM in Vancouver. It's Vancouver's cooperative radio station. My guest is Bobby Slayton, and I'm Guy McPherson. You know, I keep going back to this evening at the Improv, which I love.
You're really obsessed about this.
I am,
All
because
the things
here's
I've done.
here's the thing: we can't watch it in Canada.
Why?
There are a number of sites that don't allow you to view their content outside of the borders of the country. So there's some Canadian sites that you can't watch and American
Well,
sites.
if you
that
really
can't.
care.
But I got this new workaround to it. So yesterday was the first time I go, I'm going to see this. And I watched a whole bunch of episodes. It's fantastic.
I haven't seen them since they aired. I mean, one night I was watching one of them. I was sitting in some hotel and I came on. It's funny when you're in a hotel and you're flipping channels and you're on. You know, I must have been to friends of mine like Kevin Pollak, who's done 100 movies. But I've turned on the TV. My Family Guy's been on. I've turned on the TV, and there's My Scene and Get Shorty with John Travolta. I mean, I actually turn on the TV, flipping channel. You know, my one little scene in Dreamgirls I've seen twice as I'm flipping channels.
Jeez.
I'm only in the movie for 2 minutes.
Timing.
You know,
Timing is everything.
Huh?
Timing is everything.
It's like when you're thinking of somebody, they call you. It's the same. Flipping channel. There I am. And then I realized there's another $2 residual check should be at my door any day now.
You worked with Travolta, yeah, and Get Shorty.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Did you watch Going Clear?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah?
I heard Travolta went ballistic on that. Well, what a surprise. Going Clear, and I'd like to read the book because I think that the HBO show just touched on it. But, oh, my God, the Scientologists, it's a one-sided thing, but there's just too many people. There's just too many people that have railed against this horrible. Well, anytime you talk to a Scientologist, just what it's based on with the thetans and the outer space. And L. Ron Hubbard was a fucking nut. If you look at any religion, I mean, and I'm no theologian, but whether you look at Jesus Christ or Muhammad, and that guy's a prophet, that guy's the son of God, whether they are or not, they were good people. And you could see where people need religion in their life, and you could see where there's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't believe in any of it, but you could see where there's a possibility with Moses, with the Ten Commandments. I mean, any normal person will tell you this is written by men, but there's still things about Noah's Ark, 2 of every animal. Really? Are you really? Please. People are really lunatics. And creationists and dinosaurs and people, I mean, they're fucking lunatics. But if you look at everything there, you could see shreds of truth and history and how things might have happened. It could have happened. And some of them probably did happen. But with Scientology, it's insane. It's just insane. You know what I mean?
You would think.
But what's really insane about it, it seems like there's a lot of fairly intelligent people, I mean, John Travolta, Tom Cruise, I don't know these people, but they're not idiots. But how you follow this moronic.
Well, as he came out, he spoke about it recently, and he said that, these are just people who left the religion, who have an axe to grind. But there's so many. And
many.
People leave religions all the time, and they don't have those axes to grind with it.
You know what I put it up there with? Look, my wife and daughter and a lot of people, UFOs and ghosts, I don't believe in them, but I don't not believe in them. But when you have so many people come out about UFOs, 99% of them are just lunatics. Some guy in Omaha in the middle of the night with no teeth, and they took me up and they did an anal probe. This guy's out of his mind. But there's been too many pilots and too many things and too many experts, but there's got to be something. And same thing with ghosts. 99.9% of it's got to be pure bullshit.
But notice with the internet now, we have so much more information, and yet those experiences with UFOs and ghosts seem to be dropping.
Right.
It's interesting how you would think that now that we know the whole world's business, we
Right.
would hear more about it.
Right.
But actually, we're hearing less.
Well, you know what? I know too many people that have seen too many ghosts, and I live in a house and some creepy stuff went on. A guy killed himself in the house, and some creepy stuff. Nothing major, no Amityville horror, but some creepy little things. Like, okay, that was really creepy, and that was creepy. And
I thought I had a ghost
maybe the
in my
house
house last night.
the dog is going crazy, and maybe there are rats in the pipes, and maybe that was the house shifting. But they were just so I could see where something out there's got to be real, but not Scientology.
So you're not religious at all. I know you played Israel not too long ago.
Yes, that was
You don't have to be religious, of course, to play Israel. And you're Jewish, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
What a surprise. Israel, what was really interesting is there's this comic, Avi Lieberman, and for years, they've been doing this tour every year, twice a year, 4 or 5 comics, a tour of all these different towns in Israel is to raise money for a charity, to fight terrorism, and for years, people have done it. Comic, and then it's not necessarily Jewish comics. Matter of fact, usually there's only one Jewish comic on the bill. And I thought, he asked me to do it last year, and I'm thinking these audiences, 99% of them are Jewish, and I'm thinking the guys with the hats and the payas and sideburns.
Had you been before?
Huh?
Had you ever been there before?
No, and I had no
Okay.
desire to really go there. There's too many places in the world I want to see.
Yeah.
And I was not dying to go to Israel. And my mother would go, you're a Jew, you should go. Like, I don't really want to go because all you hear about is war and people killing each other. And Leno had gone there about a month before me, and I called him up and I said, well, so what's it like? And he goes, it's just like the Valley, there's a lot of story shops, a lot of Jews, And but when I went there, the only prerequisite that I put together 20 minutes, and I had to be clean. I mean, I could talk about porn and drugs. They just wanted it, no 4-letter words. And I said, fine. And I went there with a couple of the comics, Kevin Meaney, a lesbian female comic who did great from England. Who was the other comic? That was just the 3 of us, actually. And the audiences were spectacular. But, I never was a religious guy. But when you get to that city, whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew, it does. You go to Jerusalem, you go to the Wailing Wall, and you go to, it does have a lot of, it's kind of cool. They just see the history. It's hard not to be touched by it a little bit.
Would you go back?
Yeah, I'd go back. I'd go back to work again. Again, there's so many places I want to see. We were there, and 3 days later, that war broke out after those kids were kidnapped and killed, and then they killed the Arab kid. And so we got out just in time.
Jeez.
We were there. But yeah, it's a long flight. But there's, like I said, a million places I've never been. And if I'm going to travel that far, because I'm on airplanes so much that I'd like to go someplace new.
Do you work in other countries much? I know you worked in England, and now you're in Canada.
That's the thing for a comic is that, there's not a lot of places. A lot of people work Australia, and I haven't got any great offers to go there. I'd like to go, but again, it's a long flight. If it's not going to be for a lot of money, I'd rather just go there and go scuba diving and take a vacation. And I've never worked Ireland. I've worked England a few times, and I've worked, Canada. I don't really. Well, yeah, I guess it's another country, but it's kind of still North America.
Yeah.
But there's enough differences where
Mexico's North America, too.
I played Mexico.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I played. Some guy opened an ill-fated club in Puerto Vallarta one time, and it didn't last very long because American tourists, when they're down there, wanted to basically go dancing and go shopping and go drinking and go to the beach. So at night, they weren't really going to a comedy club. So we got a bunch of drunk stragglers coming in and a bunch of Mexicans that didn't speak English. They weren't great shows, to say the least.
So you're not religious in any way, but do you celebrate Jewish customs and
Jewish
holidays?
custom. Well, I try to get stuff on sale. I don't want to pay retail. I don't want to go to Best Buy and pay full price. Hey, no, I don't celebrate anything. No, I don't. I like Christmas, and I am not a good Jew.
Are you politically conservative, or do you ever talk about that on stage?
No, because I'm not really political, and I don't really care, and I vote for president, but I'm so disillusioned by everything that I don't really care anymore, and I don't feel like anything I do can help. And I know that every person helps, and everybody leaves a carbon footprint. And look, I recycle and I don't litter. I do that. I do what I can as a human being to, and I try to shop local, but I don't.
And socially, you're pretty liberal, yeah.
Politically, you know what? I change my mind every day. Every week I'm changing my mind. I'm always thinking about how much I'd like to leave the United States because it's so horrible and filled with so many horrible people. And every time there's a shooting in a mall or there's traffic and congestion or somebody else is talking about fracking and everybody's And I got to get out of this douchebag country. Then I go, where am I going to go? Then I'm going to come up to, I love Canada. I'm going to bitch about, you get the free health care. Then you got to wait 8 months to take care of your pregnancy. Fuck it.
Wait, you're going to wait 8 months to take care of your pregnancy?
I don't know how it works.
So the kid is born, but then you finally get to see a doctor.
I don't know how it works. All I know is I'm paying on my ass for health care, and it's costing me a fortune.
Do people think that you're conservative?
I don't know what they think.
Oh,
I don't think they care.
No.
I'm lucky they know who I am.
Well, yeah, I know. I was talking to Alonzo Bowden, and he was approached by Fox, I think, because they wanted a black guy, especially, to be a comic for their news station.
To show it. Maybe we'll get a gay person too in Chew. I hate Fox News and I hate everything about Rupert Murdoch, and I hate everything about the New York Post, and I hate Bill O'Reilly. Oh, just awful people.
Yeah.
What made you think you thought I was one of those?
No, and he's not either. But he was approached because of the perception. I guess they thought he kind of attacks maybe both sides, or he talks political, but he's not a knee-jerk liberal.
No, but a lot of times I talk about how much I love the death penalty, which I do. I mean,
so that might be something where
I
people go,
that.
"Oh, this guy's
and then, all the Mexicans flooding over to the country and getting free health care and driver's license, and I'm against that. There's some of them that's fine, but everybody seems to think that I'm this right wing, but I'm not, because I just hate everybody.
Equal opportunity.
I mean, gay marriage is great. Smoking pot is great. Do whatever you want is great. Porn is great. I mean, and then, do heroin if you want. It's great. But so I'm on both sides. I'm all over the map.
You can't pin Bobby Slayton
down. You can't pin Bobby Slayton down.
Did you ever study comedy coming up?
Study it?
Yeah, like take a class or anything?
Never, ever. I know that they have those now. They didn't when I was doing it, I don't think. I don't think you can teach comedy. I think you could probably, steer people in the right direction or give them some tips. I don't know how much you can learn from a class. I mean, you probably can. There's a lot of comics that are doing that. They're teaching people. I think, I think it could save you a year or two of struggling. But I don't think if you're a natural comic, no matter what you do, it's like teaching somebody painting. You can give them the tips and you can point them in the right direction. But, I don't think you're going to make a painter. I think you can teach somebody how to act, and you can make somebody a better basketball player, but I don't think if you don't have those natural abilities, I think there's only so good you can get. I mean, I guess anybody, if you spent 8 hours a day, you could become a great basketball player. And if you painted all the time, I think you have to have a spark in there or something.
Yeah.
Maybe a little creative DNA to become a comic. I think it's a natural thing.
Do you know Jim Richardson?
Yeah, of course I know Jim.
That's what I was getting at. I found him online yesterday.
Well, Jim Richardson,
and he's a guy, he teaches. I watched one of his videos and I go, this doesn't seem...
Well, I've known Jim. I haven't talked to him in years, but I remember he used to teach comedy. Very serious guy.
Very serious. That's what I was getting at.
Very serious, and he was never a comic. So I don't know.
Yeah, and for the punchline, the punch word has to be monosyllabic and a blast. That's the rule of his joke writing.
Well, see, that's why I think that's what he thinks.
Yeah.
And if a comic's going to teach that, hey, you have to be like me. First of all, he's never done stand-up, so I don't know how much you could teach, really, But then again, you get little white guys who probably never played basketball. They're great basketball coaches. I don't know how much you can really teach. And there's some guys, I would think you'd have to be a stand-up. I've never heard his class or listened to that.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I think might be detrimental, telling somebody how to do stand-up.
Yes, he was the guy in San Francisco, right? He
Yeah.
still is, yeah. Did you ever do the competition?
Yeah, I did the San Francisco comedy competition, and Jim was always a big fan of mine. He was a writer and always wrote great things about me, so I never want to say anything bad about him. He loved me. That was
And how did you do?
ago. Huh?
How did you do?
I did great. I was coming second or third. And,
do you remember who you lost to?
no, I remember the competition. That was another stupid thing. I remember I did the competition, and it was a big thing back then. It was broadcast on PBS, and I remember one year I came in second and lost to Michael Pritchard, who was a big pompous. I love Michael, big goofball. I was much better comic. And as he was giving his acceptance speech, I just went out and just gave him the finger behind the curtain. He didn't see me, and everybody started cracking up. But I remember one year they had this laugh-off in Houston. They had a laugh-off in New York. They had a laugh-off in Chicago. There were like 5 cities: L.A., San Francisco, Houston, New York, and some other city, maybe Miami. At the top, whoever won, and they broadcast it on Showtime. So whoever won in that city went on to the big laugh-off in New York. It was like the major laugh-off, or one of some other cities. So in L.A., I came in second to Denny Johnston. Denny was great, but I think I did a better set. But the judges, Gallagher and a few others, were friends of Denny's. So he won. I came in second. So Denny, when they had the big major laugh off of all the city, Denny couldn't make it because his wife was about to give birth. So I went in to the big laugh off. And it was me, guy from Houston. I'm trying to remember who all the comics were. I don't remember. But I definitely had the best set that night. I killed. And the guy I lost to, who was a friend of mine, was a San Francisco guy, Ron Lucas, who was a ventriloquist, and a great ventriloquist, but a ventriloquist. Not a comic, a ventriloquist. I lost to him. Came in second again.
To a puppet.
Story of my life.
He lost to a puppet.
Lost to a puppet.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of the evening at the Improv. You talked about Muppets.
Oh, back to the Improv.
Yeah, mutant puppets.
Well,
you
mutant
didn't.
puppets.
You hated the Muppets.
Yeah, I hated the Muppets.
You hate everything.
I hate everything.
Excuse me, I just want to interrupt for a second just to say that you're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO 100.5 FM in Vancouver, Canada. It's Vancouver's cooperative radio station. See how we're being cooperative here? My guest is Bobby Slayton, and I'm Guy McPherson. Now keep listening. So you didn't study comedy, but you studied by watching Klein and Carlin.
Yeah, I watched
those. Were your,
but I never
were
wanted
your
to do
guys?
I never wanted to do comedy. It never crossed my mind to do it. If you talk to a lot of comics, when I was a teenager or a kid, I always wanted to be a comic. I never wanted to be a comic. I watched them all. I didn't study them.
What did you want to be?
I don't know. I got my first job in San Francisco working in a record store, and I was getting free tickets to concerts, free T-shirts and posters, and I go, I'd like to work for a record company because I get free records, free T-shirts, and free concert tickets. That would be really cool. And then I just got into stand-up. I just decided to do one day, and I did it. By the way, how long is this podcast?
It's
4
about
hours?
4
How long
hours.
have we been on for?
We've been on for 43 minutes.
Is it an hour?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Don't you play commercials?
No.
Oh, my God.
No. It's just you and me.
So, yeah, I didn't think about doing stand-up, and I just one day got up at the Holy City Zoo, and I did it. It was one of those things where I'm going, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I wasn't very good, and I didn't do it again for a year, but then I just started getting into it again. And, I was lucky. The only time in my career I was really lucky at the right place at the right time was when they called it this big comedy boom of the 80s and the 70s. I was kind of right there when it started. So besides, Catch a Rising Star and the comic strip in New York and the Improv and Comedy Store in L.A., there were comedy clubs opening all around the country. There was Zanies in Chicago. There was a club in Cleveland. There was, Atlanta Punchline, San Francisco Punchline. So there were places to work. And in San Francisco, the Bay Area alone, I think you could work every night and make, anywhere $75, $150. And, back then that was a lot.
Yeah, San Francisco was at the forefront of the comedy boom, wasn't it?
It was.
Boston.
Boston and San Francisco. I mean, New York and L.A., but as the satellite cities, I'd have to say a lot of guys are coming out of Boston.
So many great guys came out of San Francisco, and women.
Not really.
Really?
No.
No?
Who?
You,
Okay, that's it.
Dana Carvey,
No, Dana, Kevin
Paula
Pollak,
Poundstone.
Paula Poundstone. No, there were a lot. Bob Goldthwait, I think, was originally from Boston, and Paula was from Boston. Kevin Meaney, they all moved to San Francisco. There was great. Whitney Brown went on to write work on SNL.
He was great.
And there were a bunch of other guys. Bill Rafferty was on Laugh, and he passed away. Great guy. A lot of good comics. Robin, Williams.
Oh, yeah, of course. Probably right the top
He was pretty
from
big.
San Francisco. Yeah, he did okay. But you think, so Klein and Carlin, you say, are your guys.
Well, you know what? I grew up again in the late 60s when I saw comics on TV. It was Ed Sullivan. It was the old Jewish comics, the Shecky Greens, Jackie Mason, those guys, Cosby, who I liked. But in the early 70s, when I was a teenager, and you're smoking pot, there's Cheech and Chong, who I've never been a Cheech and Chong fan.
From Vancouver.
Oh, yeah, I like them. They're good guys. They're friends of mine. But I wasn't a big Cheech and Chong stoner humor.
Yeah.
But Klein and Carlin were just smart, I think most of the younger Jewish comics, like Seinfeld, me, Larry Miller, Mark Schiff, and all these guys, Paul Reiser, were Klein, because he was New York Jewish, and Carlin, too. We all love Carlin. But even more the Catholic and the dope smoking. They were both together, I think, two of the main guys. And then you had the black comics, who watched, of course, Pryor, and then, Eddie Murphy, and, Chris Rock. So we all had our comics that we watched and grew up with.
So, but Rickles wasn't one of them?
I always loved Rickles. No, as a kid, I loved Rickles. I always loved Rickles. But when I was a young comic, I was more into, the monologists. And I always loved Rickles. I always loved the Smothers Brothers. They always made me laugh. They still do. I mean, until they split up a couple years ago.
But aren't they back?
Huh?
Aren't they back again?
No.
No.
Unless no, it's in the last month or two.
Okay.
I talked to Tommy a few months ago. He was retired. So
He's up in
I
his
don't think
wine estate, winery.
He's getting a great winery. They actually make great wine, the Smother Brothers. The late, great Pat Paulson, who was on their show, made a Pat Paulson Cabernet. Was a great wine.
Oh, they made that?
Pat Paulson, no, he was on with the Smother Brothers.
Yeah.
But no, he made a terrific wine, Pat Paulson.
Ran for president.
And then I know.
Yeah.
And then I think, was married to some horrible woman. She got the winery, and it was over, and he died, and life sucks. That's the way it goes. I'm doing great compared to Pat Paulson. My career is fine.
Yeah. But you think with Rickles, now how he attacks certain groups.
Right.
And you have that in your act, too. That's not all you do.
Right.
But so there's that,
I'm sure that came
natural comparison.
Yeah, well, you know what? It probably Rickles was certainly one of the first and one of the best to ever do that. He invented that, and I didn't necessarily get that from him.
Joey Lewis,
huh?
Joey
Lewis too. I mean, Joey Lewis, I've met Don a lot of times, and I never asked him where he actually got his whole style from. But it's working though late at night in those clubs in Vegas and drunks and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
it's.
Do you often get lumped in with people like Lisa Lampanelli or Nick DiPaolo?
I don't know if I get lumped in with them, but I've had people say to me.
Well, grouped in with them. I don't want to say.
I have people say to me, you remind me of Lisa Lampanelli, but, if you ask Lisa, she'll tell you that, I'm not saying she got it from me, but I have been doing it a lot longer. And DiPaolo, I just talked to the other day. We all have that same style of comedy, but I don't think anybody got it from anybody, We don't just come up with that style. But Rickles was one of the first and always one of the best. You see, the difference between me and Rickles, besides the fact that he's rich and famous, he will apologize at the end of the show. Oh, I'm kidding. I love everybody. I'll sing a song. I don't apologize, and I don't sing a song. I mean everything I say.
Oh, he sings lots of songs. Yeah.
And this week at the Comedy Mix should be great because I know you have a lot of Asians and Arabs up here and gays, and it should be interesting. Like your article in the paper. It should be interesting to see how people react, and I think that most of them will like it. But once in a while, somebody does get their panties in a bunch, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nope. You could change your act.
Huh?
You could change
a little late now. People say, hey, if this isn't working for you, maybe you should reinvent yourself. A lot of people reinvent themselves. Become the political comic, and a lot of guys start going to motivational speaking. And I know comics that start doing hypnosis. I go, you know what? I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm not changing it now. I'm trying to get this down. I'm not changing my act, becoming,
Yeah.
He might say he's a political comic. He's
Too late.
Fuck that.
Lots of comics, obviously,
Yes.
and through the eras. Who's the guy who makes you laugh most off stage, or a woman?
Off stage?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really hang out with a lot of comics because I'm on the road all the time. So when I'm home, I stay home and I don't really leave my house. I cook.
Okay.
And I don't hang.
Think back though, when you used to hang.
Well, you know when I hang. Let me take that back. Every year, except for this year, when I do the Montreal Comedy Festival, I'll hang out with comics and the guys that will make me laugh. I don't think that the guys I hang out with, we try to make each other laugh, but there's always comics that, Nick DiPaolo, if I see Nick, always funny. But you know what? Whoever I'm hanging with, I'm trying to
because
think
as you know, a lot of comics off stage aren't particularly funny. They're serious or dour or whatever.
Well,
but some guys are just naturally hilarious, no
yeah,
matter
but
where they are.
I think most comics are either on or not on.
Yeah.
And I don't ever try to be on, but I mean, with other comics, sometimes people bring it out of you.
Mm-hmm. What about this then? The comic who never achieved the acclaim that they should have achieved. So maybe a name we don't even know, but you always thought that's a great act. They should make it.
Can I count myself or no?
Yeah, sure.
Besides me?
Besides you.
Oh my God!
When
you say make it, I don't know what
Well, just how about just known to
there's
the
a
masses?
lot of guys. Well, there's a lot of guys. Again, Nick DiPaolo is one of my favorite
but we
comics
know
ever.
him.
He's
we
not a
know
household
him.
name.
Yeah, I know, but we know him.
You know him because you know comedy.
I guess.
But you know him like you know me. But if you walk down the street, 99% of the people never heard of me or Nick DiPaolo.
Sure, but comedy fans have. So I'm not talking about necessarily people who've gone on to star in movies or sitcoms.
Well, I don't know because most of the people I know. I mean, there's a guy named Nick Griffin who used to open up for me. He's done 15 Lettermans. Great stand-up. I don't think people know who he is. But Jake Johansson, people know Jake Johansson, right?
Okay. I love Jake.
I don't know who's out there that people don't know. I mean, because again, all the comics I know are basically headliners. And I mean, there's a lot of opening acts that are really good that people don't know, but they haven't been doing this very long. So, you know. Greg Giraldo was great. A lot of people didn't know Greg. I mean, they knew him from the Comedy Central roast.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was just starting to become big.
He was, and he got that job on Last Comic Standing as one of the judges.
Right. He was great. He's one of my favorite comics ever.
Okay, fine. You don't have answers for those.
No answers.
That's okay.
I mean, later I'll probably think of somebody. No, but when you ask me what comics probably...
Well, like, think about growing up in San Francisco.
Right.
Or not growing up, but starting out there.
in San Francisco.
Yeah. And, you know, it was a thriving scene there. And some guys didn't really continue on. Or you look at those old Evening at the Improv, some guys have stopped performing.
But a lot of guys stopped, but they went on to other things. Like
That's true,
Mike Binder, who, you know...
I always liked Mike.
I opened up for Mike many years ago. He directed me and created that show, Mind of the Married Man, on HBO. Mike just stopped doing stand-up and writes all these movies. He has a movie out with Kevin Costner now, Black and White.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote that. He directed it. So he went into other things. A lot of people didn't necessarily... You know, Larry Wilmore, I think opened up for me, but Larry was a stand-up.
Yes, he was,
went on
yeah.
to, of course, that Larry Wilmore show is great. So a lot of guys don't do stand-up.
That's true, because when I was watching, it all hinges around Evening at the Improv for me. So last night I'd see names, I go, I don't recognize this name, and I Google them and I go, oh, they're writers, they're character actors, or they're producers.
Well, Judd Apatow, perfect example. There was a guy I think opened up for me twice.
Was he good as a stand-up?
Was a stand-up.
Was he good?
You know what? I don't remember. I remember he was very likable, and stand-up wasn't really his forte. I think directing, producing, and writing major motion pictures and making billions of dollars was more his forte than playing comedy clubs. But you know, but there's a lot of guys like that if you watch a lot of sitcoms, you know, I'm watching for the first time Tim Allen's show. I'm flipping channels the other day. So what is his show? Tim Allen's new show, whatever it's called.
Who knows?
No idea. But anyway, I'm looking at the credits, and it's a lot of comics. You know, a couple of comics all of a sudden started doing. Comics started, you know, as a writer, one of the producers. So a lot of guys behind the scenes writing and directing and producing. Yeah. I just never got into it. I can't write a sitcom. People go, you should write a sitcom for yourself. It's not my thing.
Have you tried?
Yeah, and then they go, screw this. I'm a comic. I'm writing a book that's really, I think, really.
How's that coming?
Huh?
How's that coming?
I'm rewriting it for the 5th time. Every time I read it, I go, I don't like this. And I keep rewriting it. It's getting better and better and better. I've been working on it for 2 years, you know. My wife keeps saying to me, how's War and Peace coming along? Because it's going to be the only book I'm ever going to write. And I know comics just keep writing books. And they've written 3 or 4 books. I don't know how they do it.
So yours is a memoir? Or they probably get people to write it for them.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what
I'm writing this myself. I'm not transcribing it. I'm not giving... Yeah, I'm writing it myself. I've had one writer that's helped me, you know, punch up some jokes and, you know, maybe add a few of this and that. But I'm writing the book.
But it's your life story.
Yeah, and because I don't have Billy Crystal's life story, and because I don't have, you know, any horror stories in my life or drug addictions or Academy Awards, no giant highs and lows, I have all these great stories that I'm trying to embellish and make really, really funny. Because I've been telling these stories to people for years. And they go, you got to put that in a book. You got to put it in a book. But, you know, like you know, because you're a writer, to actually take something and put it on the page and make that translate and make it funny is really, really difficult for me.
Right. And but you're having to, you're probably coming up with memories that you had forgotten about.
A few, yeah.
One will lead to another.
A few. And I want the book to sound like me because, you know, I was writing it. And the first draft, I go, you know, it sounds like it's being I want it to come out in my voice.
You have to use the gravelly font.
Well, you need the gravelly font, and I want it to be funny but not too corny. It's very difficult for this to come out the way. And I sit on planes all the time, and I sit there rewriting, and it's slowly getting better. And in the next 6 months, it should be done. And I'm going to self-publish it because I want to. I talked to some publishers. Well, you can't put that in there, and you shouldn't say that. That's libelous. And I don't know if fuck you. I'll do what I want, and I'll write it the way I want to write it.
Oh, so it's okay. So that's a choice. You want to just put it out there.
Yes.
There must be a publisher out there who would say, no, that's fine.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't make any money that way, and I want to just do it myself and the whole layout myself and print it myself.
You can sell it at shows.
I don't know if I'll sell it at shows, but I got rights to all these really great pictures, and it's, you know, well, you don't need that many pictures, you don't need that many quotes. Shut up, I'll do what I want. You know, right. I've done this. I did it my way. I've been a poet, a pirate, a pawn, and a king. I wrote that.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
That's good. You should use that.
Yeah,
Put that on the.
I know. A lot of people steal from me.
Now, your daughter Natasha is a big pop star.
Yeah,
Did
we're
you
not quite big, but yeah, she's getting there.
Did you help get her foot in the door in showbiz?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How?
Oh my God, it's a long story. How much time do we have?
You can take as long as you want. I know you want to get out of here.
No, but I can
Make it as long as you want.
Well, Natasha, when she was a little girl, wanted to get into show business, and I was on the Tom Arnold show on the WB. This is in my book. I'm going to kind of make this a shorter version. You can read the whole version of my book when it comes out. And I was on the Tom Arnold show, and I was only a recurring character, so my dressing room was pretty much the size of an airplane bathroom. And Natasha would come to the tapings every Friday night. Daddy, I got to do this. I want to do this. And she became friends with the two little girls on the show. My wife goes, do you really want to put her in show business? And I go, look, we're not show business parents. We're not like the Honey Boo Boo people. You know, we'll get her an agent, and she'll get it out of her system. She's never going to get anything.
She wanted to act.
Huh?
She wanted to
really
act.
wanted to act.
Yeah.
So in a month, she had an animated series with William Macy as the father and Perry Gilpin from, I think, Frasier as the mother. And then a month later, she got a regular part on this ABC series called Brothers Keeper. A regular, they had her come in 7 times ABC because she never acted before. And she was a spoiled little brat on the show. It was great.
How old was she?
I think she was 9.
Okay.
And the Tom Arnold show, the week or month she gets the show, the Tom Arnold show gets canceled at Universal Studios. Her show goes on the exact same set as the show I was on. Exact same stage as the Tom Arnold show, which is an amazing coincidence considering how many studios and sound stages there are in L.A. So her show goes on the same stage at Universal Studios, and because she's a regular, she's got this giant dressing room adjacent to the set, living room, television, shower, and a parking space with her name on it. Back then, nobody had smartphones. I never took a picture. I don't think I ever got a picture of Natasha Slayton, 9 years old, a parking spot. And then she got some more stuff. She did a couple of movies and a few more TV shows. And then she just couldn't take the callbacks anymore. She hated it. She got a callback for everything. You're too young, you're too old, you're too pretty, you're too fat, you're too skinny. We're going to go Asian. You don't look like the father. We want a blonde. We want this, And then she just couldn't take it anymore. And she always wanted to sing. And she got into the Pussycat Dolls. And then he became GRL. And now they
that same group became GRL?
Yeah, Pussycat Dolls became GRL. There still are a Pussycat Dolls.
Yeah.
But she was like the third incarnation of them. And the woman, Susan Anton, that started it, now the group's called GRL. And they got Britney Spears' manager. They got some major songwriters. They have a triple platinum song in Australia called Ugly Heart. And they were on the top of the pop charts in England. And, it's tough making. If you don't write the song, it's tough making a living. But she's doing it. They're all great singers of 4 girls.
You must be very proud.
Very proud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or must be very
they
jealous.
Look great. The band looks great. They dress like hookers. They fight crime. They sing. They got it all.
Yeah, the TV show in the works, maybe.
They got it. Well, they actually have a reality show they're working on.
Oh, yeah?
They just got back from Vietnam. They're going to Australia next week. They're doing great.
You like their music?
It's not my kind of music. It's not on my Pandora list. It's, I don't listen to it just because my daughter.
Yeah.
No, but they have a couple of great songs. They did a song with Pitbull called Wild Wild Love. And they were on the Jimmy Fallon
the
show.
irony.
Huh?
Oh, the irony.
My daughter's cheating on me with another Pitbull.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Pitbull
So, yeah,
of
she's doing
Comedy.
great. So she's, she's making a living. She's paying her bills. And to do that in showbiz is not very easy.
That is great. Hey, before we get out of here, I want to ask you, you're a guy approaching 60.
Yeah.
And you're
60 in May.
You're all tatted up.
Yeah.
So when I see young people with lots of tattoos, I always think, oh, yeah, you're going to want that when you're 60?
Yeah.
Okay.
I might get a few more.
Well, you might get a few more. So this is what I was going to say is, like, do you ever go, oh, I wish I hadn't now? No, you still like them.
No, I like my tattoos. That's my wife right there. You can't really see it on the radio, the Angel of Death. And my daughter Natasha is in this big flaming heart, but that was so old. That tattoo is about 26 years old. You can't really read Natasha anymore.
That was before the big tattoo boom.
Before the big boom. People were getting tattoos.
Yeah.
But,
But it wasn't like every second person.
Either you're in a rockabilly band, you're in prison, you're in a motorcycle gang.
Or you'd sailed around the world.
Exactly. You're shanghaied. There's a reason. And I just thought they were cool. And now everybody, I love Mom. Yeah, because Mom paid for it with a credit card, you little college fuck. Yeah, So everybody's got them now. So that's not quite. My daughter, when she was 16, we got daddy-daughter tattoos together.
Oh.
She got a little butterfly tramp stamp, and I got this giant black angel of death, and
Now, why'd you get that?
because it's
Angel of
a
Death.
cover up. See the big black? So
Yeah, yeah.
there was a tattoo there that I wish I never got, so I covered it up.
Well, that's the thing with tattoos.
Yeah.
So what was that one that you?
I love cock. I didn't really. One night, the guy wrote a great article about me, guy. He had a great podcast, and things happen.
Yeah,
What do you want? You want to go take a walk?
Oh,
Oh, what a
bother.
great ending that was.
That was.
That
Let's
was
get
it
out of
right
here.
there.
I'll edit that right. Thanks so much.
All right, pal.
Now that's a pro. He knows how to end the conversation, doesn't he? I don't know if that was true. I assume it wasn't. But funny. Hope you enjoyed that. My conversation with Bobby Slayton. Check him out online. BobbySlayton.com. Check him out on YouTube. Anywhere. In a club near you. Go see him. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. And as always, we're here next week with another guest from the world of comedy. Thanks. Good night.